Well, hello and welcome everyone to another Right Capital Practice Management webinar presentation. My name is Daniel Gregoire, and I'm here to help all of you as we really look at a popular topic within our industry, which is, of course, really what are the different strategies we can use when communicating with clients during potentially volatile markets, during unstable times when there's lots of what ifs all around us in the world, and how to best utilize the technology at your disposal to really help keep clients focused on where they should, on their long-term objectives, and maybe keep them from really getting into the emotional ups and downs that we can see clients falling into. So this is a really great presentation. It's going to revolve a little bit around some great insight we've gotten from our own advisors here at Right Capital, where we'll talk through some strategies that they've utilized. But we're also going to use the actual system itself to really get into how you can both communicate with clients via things like the vault and the tasks features, and how we can use client access to alleviate concerns and pivot focus back to the long-term planning objectives. And lastly, we're also going to talk about that great brand new feature we have launched just yesterday with the new snapshot report. So lots of great stuff today for all of you. We're going to be taking some time up front to work through a quick PowerPoint. Then we're transitioning over to the software, but just wanted to, again, give everyone a heads up. This presentation is planned for around 35 minutes. We'll then take as much Q&A as we need to at the end, and we'll make sure that everyone has the information they need to feel confident, working through different situations that we are talking about today. So this is definitely a good conversation. But again, if you're newer to Right Capital, know that each and every month here, we host not only a CFPCE approved webinar for your attendance, as well as a practice management style webinar, as well as a variety of other webinar features, whether it's a Friday masterclass webinar on a specific area in Right Capital, or others. We're here to help. So during these webinars, we love hearing from you. There's a GoToWebinar control panel where you can type in any questions that you have to me today, but certainly we'll keep the lines open as well afterwards with the support team and our devoted onboarding team to make sure that, again, you have the resources you need to be successful. So with all that being said, everyone, it's probably about that time to get into the PowerPoint and start plugging away. So let's go ahead and take a look at client communication during volatile markets. And of course, despite the rebound we've seen in the past few days, it's certainly been an interesting month thus far. From March 8th to now, I know we've certainly fielded a lot of questions here at Right Capital about how we can best leverage our tool to be able to help reduce some client stress out there. But also, we know that you as the advisor deal with clients, on a day-to-day basis, and although the markets look decent as of close last night, we all know the only thing that's guaranteed for the future is change and potential upsets as well for the clients we work with. So we're here to talk through the best case scenarios, best practices when we're navigating these types of conversations with clients, and how, again, we can reinforce not only our value to the clients that we serve, but also how a tool like Right Capital can really help to self-moderate those, behavioral components and the psychological components of dealing with volatile markets. So the first thing we want to do, everyone, is just kind of quickly talk through our agenda. Now, there are some different strategies we're going to talk about today with client communication. They're simply that, just strategies. Some might be better for some clients, others might be better for others, and you might have your own that's unique to you. But ultimately, we want to be able to, consistently reinforce our value to the client as their advisor who's going to help them, make it through these kind of turbulent times. And that's why, we want to talk about some of the ways that we can do that, and the best practices that you might be able to use in a tool like Right Capital to kind of accent those strategies. Additionally, we want to talk about, how financial planning in general can help ease those clients' concerns, and what are the specific tools that you might, let's say, generate in a report or give clients access to within their portal that can help them moderate those feelings of maybe I should panic sell in this moment in time, or maybe we want to just go all liquid. So these kinds of conversations are ones that we know you deal with day to day, but we want to make sure, again, you have all the best tools that you can to be able to help clients understand the benefits of the strategies that you've laid out for them, and of course reinforce that you've planned for these kinds of scenarios. So we're then going to work in RightCapital to, again, really connect the dots between the strategies themselves and where in the system we can really leverage the information. And of course, market volatility doesn't usually happen in a vacuum, and there's going to be lots of clients being impacted by this at the same time. So we want to talk about how as well you can effectively manage your time and best work with your clients, potentially even remotely, and provide some great opportunities within RightCapital to do that, and some ways that you can really, let's say, hone in that remote presentation as well. So we're going to dive in, and I hope that everyone gets some good tips out of this, but please let us know if there are any questions along the way. Again, GoToWebinar has a control panel with a questions drop down. You're welcome to communicate with me through that, and we'll be monitoring those areas as we make our way through. So obviously, when we're talking about communication strategies, we really are talking about the best ways to potentially manage clients who are in an emotional place, who are vulnerable, and maybe worried about their future. So it's important to understand that they have a lot on the line, and that they're not as educated as you are as it relates to the processes that maybe you have in place to make sure that they're in a good position moving forward. And the first strategy that we want to talk about today is really one that's focused on proactive communication. And I know a lot of our advisors that we work with here at RightCapital, use our system to be the medium of the communication itself. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. But when markets drop significantly and quickly, sending a message to your clients and even updating your own, social media posts or other information to acknowledge what's happening, and make sure that clients have the tools they need to feel comfortable during that time is a really important step. And again, driving your alpha as the advisor and being their person who gets them through these tough times. And these types of communications a lot of times are going to revolve around a couple quick topics. Number one is what do we know about what's happening, right? What has happened? We know that maybe we saw a potential for correction territory earlier this month. Maybe that that was something you could communicate to your clients. You also might want to communicate that, hey, we've planned for this. This is why you work with me. We've been able to look ahead and understand that this is just a natural part of the market cycle, and ultimately there are strategies that we have in place that can help deal with this. And then again, just reinforce that you are their person and you are there to help and accessible for help, whether it's a phone call, whether it's an email, whether it's a Zoom screen share, putting yourself out there and actively communicating to your clients, in a time where they might be wondering if it's okay to reach out to you, might be a really good way to, again, build that relationship and establish, the overall truth that is you are there to help them through these times. And again, new clients in these situations might need a little additional attention. They might be individuals who are newer to financial planning in general, who may not fully understand the concepts that you've been working with them on, and therefore they might need, again, just that a little additional hand holding. But proactive communication is always a great way to kind of get ahead of those panicked phone calls that might come out. And again, in that communication, reinforcing potentially that they could have access to a tool that can help them understand the impacts of the current volatility that they're seeing is, again, a great way to help those individuals overall. Now, second point here, which is another strategy that can be used separately or in conjunction with the previous strategy, is to pivot the conversation and to really help that client understand what's the actual impact of that particular market drop. Let's say we all know that the financial plan itself is a staple in the industry, so we hope that you're actively using it to pitch the client's focus from, the actual short-term ups and downs of the market to their long-term investment and retirement goals. So in essence, many times when we're looking at, a client who's very nervous about the future, they're not really understanding that even as things stand, maybe they're still in a great place. Maybe they are still going to be just fine. And at the end of the day, that's really, a really strong, point to make to a client, that even if there is volatility, we are still on track. And that is a reassurance that is very helpful to clients as we work with them. And again, there's a lot of perspective here. Clients can get really scared when they're reading headlines and seeing lots of scary things as they log in, to their email every morning. But, understanding how we're measuring potential loss and reinforcing that, there are no losses until they are realized, essentially, is a great way to, again, help the clients just understand what's important to them. Maybe markets are down from let's say the past 6 months, but ultimately if we're comparing against maybe a decade or other long-term kind of comparisons, we'd be able to see where we're at, where we've been, and maybe that we are near a market high. So there's lots of opportunity to, again, pivot the conversation, and the tool at which we can use to demonstrate that understanding and demonstrate that new information for all of you, since you're RightCapital customers, is of course the RightCapital retirement analysis tool to look to the future, to run 1,000 Monte Carlo sequences, to analyze, are we still on track? Can we still fund our goals? Or is there a shortfall that we need to address and maybe make an adjustment to? And even if there is that pivot we need to make and an adjustment we need to make, that's a simple thing to do for the client. It's easy to drum up proposed plans. And again, we'll talk all about that in just a little bit. And the third piece here we really want to talk about is, a strategy around providing historical references. As I mentioned a little earlier, bear markets are just a natural part of the market cycle. Not saying that we're necessarily in one, but recognizing that there is almost guaranteed to be one at some point in the future, right? So although there's no quick fix, understanding how recessions have historically rebounded or how long they've lasted can help give clients a little bit of ease and comfort in understanding that no one can control the market. No one can understand what's happening in the future. But what we do know is there are specific variables that can be controlled. So let's understand what's happened in the past, and let's control what's happening today to best prepare for what could happen in the future. And examples of that might be, let's talk about maybe ways that we can put in a little overtime at work, get some extra money in the door, maybe spend a little less, and then look to save and reinvest the difference for the long term, hedge our bets, right? And ultimately keep putting money away and keep working towards our long-term goals. And again, giving control back to the client in these kinds of situations can be very liberating to know that there are actionable steps that they can take today, and there are things that they can do that might even be steps that we can map out in things like RightCapital with different, let's say, dynamic spending strategies, and understanding how our expenses and our living expenses might correlate to market performance and what we can expect for, let's say, inflation increases or things like market drops and the impacts on spending, to, let's say, make sure there's enough money left over at the end of the plan versus or even increasing in spending to make sure there's not too much money left over at the end of the plan in the converse scenario. So there's lots of context here that we can work off of, but these strategies are all effective ways to help bring clients back off that panic sell cliff that they might be on, and understand that there has been context. We can see in the past that for every recession there is a market high afterwards, and that is something that we've seen from obviously, as this chart states, from 1926 till present, and 2020 was not excluded from that, obviously. So although it's not included in the chart, we know we have historical reference to say, when the market goes down, there's going to be a time when it goes up again in the future. So understanding what we're going to do in those timelines, telling the client how we're going to fund their immediate cash flow needs, how we're going to let their long-term investments continue to grow, and understanding adjustments we might make and course corrects we might make is all part of these strategies that can really help to, again, alleviate concerns. And really, the next part of this puzzle is how can RightCapital actually help? What are the exact areas and what are the exact strategies that you can do within a tool like RightCapital to help ease those tensions and ease those concerns of clients during difficult times? So that's where ultimately there's a lot of different areas, and I'm going to go through all of these within the software and give examples of all of these in the system. And these are certainly not new tools we have at RightCapital, other than the snapshot feature, of course. But understanding and using RightCapital to its fullest is going to really allow you to not only communicate directly with clients, and get that upfront communication, sent out to individuals who might be, let's say, concerned about the markets, but you can also actually help clients to see in real time if and when they are, going to be at risk for not funding their goals or experiencing a shortfall. But in many cases, pivoting the client's focus to their long-term probability of success and even stress testing additional market drops with our stress test feature, whether it's now or in retirement, can really be helpful at helping the client to understand, are they at risk, or are they just maybe feeling a little anxious from reading all the headlines? And if they're still looking at a pretty good probability of success, they're still on track to fund all their goals, then there's really no need to worry at that point. And again, the last component here of the different tools that we have, and there's many, of course, but the Vault cloud storage tool is another one that you want to remember, and being proactive not only in communication, but potentially being proactive in, let's say, uploading a snapshot to the client's shared Vault, which is bank level encrypted cloud storage that is shared between you and the clients in every single plan of RightCapital. That's something that can really, again, help to show the client, exactly what you're talking about, exactly what their probability of success looks like with the market drops that we've had, or with these adjustments that have been made. So there's definitely a lot to kind of look through, and a lot of opportunities to both communicate with clients and store information, but many of them live right within our system, and a lot of them can be just automated and even set up to just send a group of tasks out to all of our clients, or other things that might be important to us. So let's talk a little bit now just quickly also about some of the things that are good tips to remember as we actually analyze these different scenarios with clients. And the first one I always want to let you know of is that our Monte Carlo scenario is one that is wonderful for projecting long-term goals, but in many cases we're not necessarily factoring in a likely correction period. If there is going to be, let's say, a downturn in the markets, we know that they'll probably come back. And although RightCapital is going to model some complex, Monte Carlo scenarios with random volatility as it projects into the future, we're not counting on a market correction. We are essentially counting on, particulars around just random volatility. So understanding that the future might even be a little rosier than the system might be projecting is helpful as well. Additionally, utilizing aggregated or integrated accounts versus just assigning value to a client's net worth through, let's say, broad asset classes is going to be much more preferred in these types of scenarios. If you have actual holdings listed within accounts, and you have actual information for live data feeds on what account balances look like as of today, that is going to be a great way to not only avoid data entry issues, but it's a great way for you to make sure that you're in control, and that you have the most up-to-date information for the clients as they're referencing their balance sheet, as they're referencing their information that's necessary for them to maybe, again, get off that feeling of panic selling and riding out the headlines. So important to note, Additionally, for those of you who maybe haven't seen it, our new snapshot report, which is a great area to kind of condense all the important client charts in one location, is another great area and opportunity to, reinforce the client's long-term planning objectives. So maybe as we see here to the right with the plan we have, there might still be a 95% probability of success in that plan. And we could even make certain notes there to say, hey, you're still on track to meet your planning goals. Maybe that is immediately sent to the client's vault along with a task that informs them to, take a look at the recent report after the volatility occurred to help alleviate concerns. Again, just understanding each individual client's needs and how they might be reacting to these conditions are important in determining what's the best strategy for you. But there is no shortage of options within a tool like RightCapital. And then, of course, if we're in a situation that maybe we see there is a significant drop in probability of success, or the clients are specifically vulnerable, maybe they have concentrated positions, maybe they work for a company that's taken a large hit in their 401k, that's potentially where there is opportunity to use those proposed plans to simulate your own what if scenarios. And again, maybe what the impact might be to, again, take control of some of those additional factors on, how much can we make this year, or how much can we afford to spend, or maybe, how much are we investing? So all of that are different proposals that you can simulate and adjust the inputs for to showcase to the client, well, yes, maybe in your current trajectory, you're potentially seeing more impact from this volatility, but with my recommendations, with our goals that we've set up and planned for, we're able to show you still able to meet your goals, still able to fund your children's wedding, your retirement, vacation goals, whatever it might be, but just with these adjustments up front, maybe with a little bit longer working time, or a little bit more invested each year. In building that up with proposed plans can really be helpful. So when we want to actually talk about where the rubber hits the road, everyone, that's where we can use the software to really do the work for us. So what I'm going to do is open up my login to RightCapital and start talking through some of this information. And again, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. Now, one thing, just as a reminder here, everyone, if you do have the option to invite clients into RightCapital based on your individual broker-dealer relationships, or just access to RightCapital, there is a lot of benefit to inviting clients to access the system. And there's also a lot of benefit for having a financial plan for every client, especially for these situations. Even if you're primarily working with them, for, let's say, investment management, having the financial plan as a backdrop that you can fall back on is a wonderful resource, especially if there is volatility in the markets, to say, maybe there's a different investment strategy that you want to show the benefits of, or maybe there's an adjustment we can make to make sure the client's long-term goals are not impacted. So again, having an individual plan built out for each client, having client access as an option when the individual clients are in need is really helpful, because again, if the clients have access, you can communicate with them directly through the tasks, you can send them updates on their report through their vault feature, and you can stay in consistent communication with them to help them understand, are they still going to be okay, and are they still on track? Now, as many of you know, some of those beneficial features we have in RightCapital, revolve around the Monte Carlo simulations. And of course, we do have our new snapshot tool, which hopefully a lot of you have been getting some good use out of. But I'll just quickly point us in a slightly different direction right now. So if a client logs in to check on their mobile app, let's say for their client portal after the markets drop by 20%, they can not only see their up-to-date information on their balance sheet, but they can also see their projected probabilities of success. And that is going to be really important, of course, for helping them understand, are they still on track? And in this case, maybe the client is still on track. Maybe they're still looking at a 94% probability of success. And as a reminder, anything over 85% is typically seen as a very successful plan. We expect trials to fail as we introduce large amounts of random volatility. And as a reminder, a market correction, which is likely after a large equity drop, let's say, is something that we're really not factoring in as a part of this plan either. So there's some additional layers to that. But if the client is still concerned and maybe there's still additional worries about the future, that's where you can really hone in on things like the retirement stress test to really help that client understand, what are the specific risks that they are exposed to as it relates to things like market volatility. And if you're having a specific conversation with a client, it might be helpful to hone the view of these different tools in RightCapital. For example, the stress test tells us what's the probability of success in the current plan. Let's say we have it in the drop-down menu off to the right. That is 94.1%. If we were to see any of these additional variables occur, let's say, for example, in equity markets dropping immediately by 30%, then returning to their growth assumptions that were laid out, after a year, we would see our 94% probability of success drop to an 89% probability of success. Not too bad. This client then is in really good shape, but maybe we don't need all these visuals here for this individual client, and maybe we want them to really just focus on a few vulnerable areas. So that's where I'm actually just going to use this edit button again, just to really help hone their focus on what's important. Maybe, really, looking at some specific scenarios around, what if there's an equity markets drop today? Maybe what if there's things like higher inflation? And maybe what if they both happen at the same time? And again, we can use this to expose those areas of vulnerability in the financial plan. But we'd be able to see and even play with the variables to say, if there is an equity markets drop, occurring again for an additional 30% or an additional 40%, what is the impact on the overall probability of success? And again, even if we were to see an equity markets drop of an additional 40%, this client still has an 88% probability of success. So again, keeping them grounded in those long-term goals is really important. But how do I make sure they're focusing on the right areas of the plan to help ease those stresses that they have? Well, that's where we can use the client access to our advantage. So for a plan like Monica and Chandler that we were just in this case, we'll just set this up here. I can visit this individual's client access tab, which is where I'd actually invite, Monica and Chandler, and I can dictate exactly what they can see. And so maybe in this case, I want to give them access to their snapshot overview as just a quick reference point. Maybe I also want them to have access to their balance sheet, maybe their budgeting to show their spending day to day, and also really importantly, their retirement analysis and their stress test. And that's going to allow them to work through all those variables we just talked about, and additionally, maybe give them access to their data entry and the cloud storage under the vault. So this is going to be a great opportunity, and don't forget that you can actually allow your clients to play with those action items as well. So if you want to let that client simulate a 50% equity markets drop today to make sure that they are still going to be okay, all you have to do is click one of these secondary options. They can try the action items, but the changes won't be saved, or they can make changes, but the changes will only be saved into the client's portal, not the advisor portal. But again, we'll use this middle one. I'll hit save. And then what we're going to see is that if I were to open this financial plan within the client's access mode, I'd be able to hone in specifically on the nuances around, what the client would see. So they'd get their snapshot overview, maybe with some information on, if they're still on track or not, to meet all their goals. We could also, add information for the clients within their balance sheet, to indicate, where we're at today, maybe what the historicals look like. They can track that to see, where they've been. Maybe they're still looking better than they were, than they thought they were. If they can see a longer timeline versus just analyzing where we were from January to now. And again, all of this helps to build perspective for the clients. And so, looking at the retirement analysis and the stress test allows that client to say, well, what if, again, there's a 50% equity markets drop. What is that going to do? Or 60% to my probability of success. And at some point, it's going to tip the tables away from the client being successful. But ultimately, this can add a lot of ease for the clients when they're looking into the future. And additionally, the vault becomes a very important area as well. So the three dots under the vault is where, of course, you can input your reports that you're generating for the clients. It's also an area where clients can upload documents for you. But this is a great place again to maybe drop in a snapshot report that you've generated. So maybe you're just really going to quickly generate this snapshot report. You click download. That report will then be ready to go, and it's something you can bring right into the client's vault, for example, to be able to say, we want to add this in, have that in, our vault that we want to add. We can name it whatever we want, and then we can just assign that client a task to let them know, specifically in the advisor login, we've uploaded a quick snapshot report that's going to give you a glimpse of where you are today. We want to let you know you're still on track to meet your financial goals. Here's what we know, here's what we can do, and here's the plan I have in place that we've talked about for the past year. So again, whether those are tasks that you assign to individual clients, or whether they're tasks that you assign to an entire group of clients, let's say maybe I'm just want to do a blast to all of my clients, I can do that. So I can say, for example, I want to send this to all my clients. We're going to assign it to them, and we're going to let them know, hey, quick updates. The markets appear, to be in, a correction territory, or we might be rebounding. And we've planned for this, and we will use cash accounts to fund short-term goals until things smooth over. I've included a snapshot report in your vault for reference of where your long-term goals stand. Again, you send that off. That's going to be an email for a lot of your clients. It'll also be a push notification to the client's cell phone. But importantly, you might want to add in, if it's maybe clients who aren't using the mobile app, where your contact information isn't right there, you might want to just actually state as well, I'm available if you need me. Let me know if you want to jump on a quick screen share, a quick cell phone call, a quick email. Happy to help. So again, being available for clients, being there for them, and helping them to understand what tools can keep their focus, towards the future, is a really important part of understanding how to best leverage RightCapital and help potentially save you some panicked phone calls that might be occurring. Because there might be scenarios where the clients have a much lower probability of success. Maybe there were scenarios where the client needs to actually make some adjustments, whether it's to their spending or to their what they're saving, and those are instances as well that can be easily built out. They can be easily adjusted to say, in these what if scenarios, how can we help the client, and how do we build a proposed plan to help this client, get from their 0% probability of success to, let's say, a 75, or to where they need to be. And that's where RightCapital can give you a lot of insight as well. So I'll just spend the last minutes here talking about how to analyze maybe a plan that isn't doing so well, and maybe where you can't just say, take a look at the stress test, you're looking great. And in these situations, we'd be able to say, for example, let's look at the confidence tab. Let's see, what's going on, and what it appears is that you're just, spending more than you're making in these years. So maybe we need to, build up those savings, or, take advantage of, some more income if it's available. And so this is where, again, we could adjust both the current plan inputs or the proposed plan inputs to say, how can this client get back on track, and what do they need to do to actually, have all this work in their favor. So again, maybe it's an adjustment to the income or others, but we can use these proposed plans to lay out our what if scenarios. We can build in additional proposed plans if you want to have multiple outcomes, maybe reduce spending to this percentage, or to this percentage, or save more to this percentage, and you can map those out individually as well. But the long story is, there's a lot available to you. There's a lot of resources that you can leverage, but please don't forget about the importance that client access can serve in RightCapital. And know that even if your clients are, not accessing all the system, there's a lot of benefit for them to at least have access to their vault, which is bank level cloud storage bank level encrypted cloud storage between you and your clients, and additionally the tasks area, again, for communication purposes. So even if the clients don't have access to any of the tools, getting access to the vault and the tasks that they can leverage, from you are very important. And again, it's as easy as typing the client's email in here and clicking invite to bring them into this portal, to allow them access to their mobile app, to the client portal, and all that great information that comes along with it. So I see we're at the 35-minute here mark, 35-minute mark here. We'll jump to some questions quickly, but I do see some questions rolling in around client access and in helping clients log in, and what client-facing resources are available. So I'll just quickly point out that RightCapital has a help center located in the upper right corner of the advisor portal. In this help center, we have a variety of areas that really help to focus in on client access. The main one is client experience, but of course you can always keyword search things like the mobile app if you wanted more information on that mobile app client portal, or others, or we can look at, for example, just this client experience article to look into how you can, let's say, enhance relationships with a tailor-made client portal, benefits of the budgeting tool, the mobile application and what that would look like, how the clients actually vault can work in both a shared and a private version, and how to use tasks and branding to make sure everything is consistent across all your platforms. But as always, there's a lot of resources, again, at your disposal here, maybe to virtually onboard or to work with individuals. And those resources include things like one-page PDFs highlighting security and safeguards for the client's data, or an overview of filling out your profile if maybe the clients are doing the data entry for you, or how to link accounts or troubleshoot common aggregation errors. So all of these resources are here for your clients. So if you're asking them, hey, please link your outside investment accounts, your held away 401ks that we can look at to just analyze how you're reacting to this market volatility and how you're going to fund your goals for the future. You might also allow them to, or give them this PDF that's going to help them, again, to get those account linked, and walk through those steps and understand, what does the process look like and how does it impact them. So lots of flexibility here, but there's also a lot of behind the scenes resources that are here to help. And of course, if anybody ever wants to see replays of any of these webinars that we run for all of you, you don't ever have to hesitate just to come to this help center area, visit the webinars area of that help center, and then you're going to see not only what webinars we have coming up, maybe an upcoming webinar on future asset purchases or helpful hints for modeling cash value life insurance, but you're also going to see a recording of every webinar we've ever presented. So here we're going to be able to really look into all the details of every presentation, including this one, at any time in the future. So we welcome you to come and watch these on demand. We welcome you to attend future webinars, and of course ask us any questions that you have that might come up along the way. Here at RightCapital, obviously, our support team is here to help Monday through Friday, 9 to 6 p.m. Eastern time. And as well, you have a devoted onboarding specialist who's, if you're newer to the software, is going to help you get up and running. But beyond that, you also, of course, can work with any of your reps or your webinar presenters. So we're all here to make sure you can confidently use this tool and effectively manage client communications through it in volatile markets. Now, I got a lot of people asking about the snapshot report, some asking to go through it. So we're just going to quickly cover that here in case any other individual questions come up. But, the snapshot report is one that we're really excited about, everyone. And this is an area of RightCapital that we've been developing for quite a while with a lot of feedback from our users. And this is meant to be really an executive summary of the information in the entire financial plan. And what's great is it's totally customizable. This is a widget-based dashboard, so I can add and remove anything I'd like. I can zoom out a little bit just so we can get a little larger scope of what we have. We can drag and drop these so I can maybe get an idea of my probability of success, maybe my balance sheet, my asset allocation strategy. Maybe I want to note the lack of tax-free assets. For the next steps, maybe we would discuss Roth conversions. lots of opportunities here that we could map out as needed. And then anything that's removed can also be added back in. So there's lots of flexibility to talk through key metrics like savings rates or withdrawal rates, effective tax rates. We can look at historical net worth over time, again, helping clients to understand where they're at today versus maybe a longer a longer look back period than maybe they're seeing on the Yahoo Finance page, as well as the investment asset allocation, the insurance needs, the retirement current year savings, and just different text boxes that you can drop in as needed. But it's all here. It's very flexible, it's very customizable, and you can really make it anything you'd like. And this will generate as like a 1 or 2 page output, or you can just simply include this as an update for your client easily within the vault, just to talk through maybe a quick snapshot to help them understand that they're still on track for their goals. So with all that being said, everyone, we'll go ahead and just wrap it up for today. It doesn't look like there are any additional questions. One that came in was, can you quickly show us how to save a PDF and put it into the vault for a snapshot? No problem, happy to do that. As a reminder, you can always see a quick PDF report preview here of the snapshot of what it would look like using that little eye icon. But note that here, for example, if we were looking just to generate this quick kind of 1 pager here, maybe with a couple extra features, let's call it maybe current year savings as well. So maybe I can show what we're saving this year. I can easily, in any financial plan, visit the 3 dots, visit the report feature, and this is where I can customize the actual outputs. All I have to do is click a snapshot report there. And again, I can include this in with other reports as needed, but today maybe we're just looking at a 1-page output. I can then download that selected page here. And in RightCapital, you might know that we just download it right to your computer. So on my bottom left of the screen here, I can actually see the snapshot report. So I can actually see the information of that report and what that looks like, any notes you're adding. We do add the disclosure, of course, in the cover page. That's just for compliance reasons, but all the raw data is here, easy to understand for the client. And then you can literally, go to the vault area, and if it's in this bottom area, you can drag it and drop it directly in to your vault. Or if maybe you're just gonna, access that file from your computer after it's been downloaded, you would just click Add File here, and you could either, pull it right from your desktop, or you could, pull it in if it was in remote cloud storage somewhere, you could access it there. But what's great is RightCapital, generally is going to be able to give you, a preview of the information. Once this one downloads fully, it'll update, but it's still in the process of uploading. But you might have a variety of different plans here or folders, and maybe you even have a snapshot folder. So this could be, potentially, update snapshot update folder. And that would help you to, just organize this information, and then you can just move that in as you need to. So again, it's all here for you. Let us know if there's anything else we can help demonstrate for everyone here, but hope you've enjoyed some of the updates as of recently, and give us your feedback, of course. When you're working with the new tools, make sure to send us a note through support. Let us know what you like, what you don't like. All that helps us to continually improve our product as we move forward. So again, everyone, we really appreciate your time today. We look forward to catching you this upcoming Friday on our webinar around modeling future asset purchases, whether they're businesses, homes, land. We can work through a lot. So we'll have some fun with that, model some what if scenarios, and then we'll be able to enjoy the weekend. So thank you so much, everyone. We'll see you soon.